I want to bring in Democratic Congresswoman Sara Jacobs of California. She's on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the House Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us. So you say Russia, in addition to all the other horrific things that country's doing, that they're weaponizing hunger in Ukraine by purposefully causing food shortages. You've called on the U.S. to make sure support for Ukraine includes humanitarian assistance. Yesterday, President Biden pledged another $800 million for military aid. Are you aware of efforts to also provide the humanitarian assistance you say is needed?
Yes, President Biden has committed over $1 billion in humanitarian assistance for Ukraine and for Ukrainians who are fleeing. We're also working to make sure that the planting season in Ukraine can continue as best as it can, since we know that in addition to Russia actually targeting these food sources, that making sure that Ukraine can continue to produce food, as it is an exporter of food to the rest of the world, and especially low-income countries, will be incredibly important to avert food insecurity in the rest of the world. And we're continuing to assess the situation and make sure we're doing everything we can to help Ukrainians and help make sure that this issue of hunger doesn't, as much as it can, not affect the rest of the world.
So today, the top Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma, he took issue publicly with how long it is taking for U.S. military assistance to actually arrive in Ukraine. He tweeted, quote, "The administration has almost hit the $3 billion ceiling Congress gave them to send weapons to Ukraine. I appreciate the administration's work on this, but the reality is it took 6 weeks to get $3 billion out the door." So Senator Inhofe says when lawmakers return from recess next week, Congress needs to look at all tools available to expedite the process. Do you agree? Do you agree with his characterization that the process needs to be quickened?
I get briefed every week as a member of the House Armed Services Committee on the weapons assistance we're sending and how we're getting it into the country and through. And I think that we are getting a huge amount of weaponry in very quickly. And I think that the Biden administration and our partner and allies who are also sending weapons should be commended for this work. Now, it's clear that we are in a new phase of the conflict with the focus on the East. And so we are going to continue to reassess what kinds of weapons will be most effective. It's why the president has announced another $800 million package, and why next week, when we are back in session, we're likely to vote on a supplemental request from the administration and a Lend-Lease bill that will help streamline this process so that we remove any congressional barriers to the administration being able to get these weapons out the door as quickly as possible.
One of the reasons we wanted to talk to you today is because you've called on the U.S. to not just support a war crimes investigation into what Russia is doing in Ukraine, but also you want the U.S. to join the International Criminal Court to ensure that Russia is held accountable. Is that likely to happen? I have never seen any president take seriously the idea of joining the ICC.
Well, you know, the United States actually signed the Rome Statute. We just never ratified it, which is the treaty that created the ICC, and that country signed to be a party to it. And we are already seeing bipartisan support for the ICC investigations into Russia's crimes in Ukraine. We passed a bill in the House that would make sure the U.S. is providing support to investigations and evidence collection for these investigations. But I think it's incredibly important that as we support the ICC investigation in Ukraine, we also officially join, because right now we are in a fight for the future of the international system, for if it's going to be an international system based on autocracy or if it's going to be one based on the values that we all hold dear. And a very important part of making sure that our side wins, that we continue to have a rules-based international system, is that we hold ourselves to the same rules we're asking other countries to hold themselves to. Because one of the biggest things that gives us power is our ability to muster other countries. We've seen that in this case, that we've been able to work with partners and allies around the world to stand firmly and united against Russia's aggression. And it's going to be important for us to be able to keep doing that, that we hold ourselves to these values and that other countries continue to want to join coalition with us and stand up against the aggression of folks like Vladimir Putin.
Democratic Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate it.